Welcome, Bridge Builders, to another episode of the podcast. If you joined us last week, we listened to Juliet's mission story.
Ugly cried.
Amazing.
So if you
story.
haven't listened to it, go back and watch it. And today we're listening to Ashton's mission story. All three of us have kind of unique mission stories. I shared my own several, like probably 10 episodes back or so, just solo. So yeah, there's just different aspects to this thing in our culture around here and in the LDS church, and we want to dig into it a little bit with Ashton and what happened to you and the good, the bad, everything in between. So with what you're willing to share.
Sure.
So welcome, Ashton, to the podcast that you are on almost every week.
Thank you.
All right, we'll start with where you served and when.
So I served my mission in Salt Lake City, and I'm from the Ogden area from Morgan County. So it's about a 30-minute drive to my mission. And it was the Family and Church History Headquarters mission, so I was not proselytizing. My first assignment was in the Family History Library, basically as a librarian, shelving books, helping people with the printers, and we were, as all of us missionaries there, we were instructed not to proselytize, not to preach. We could respond to patrons' questions, but we were instructed not to, share beliefs and to proselytize to the patrons in the library. Okay. So a very unique mission for sure.
And this was 2012-ish?
2012 it was Star Wars Day, May the 4th, 2012, until the end of April 2014.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that this was what is now known as like a service mission? Do you feel like that was kind of similar?
It currently is a service mission. It was a service mission. There was about a 5-year time frame where it became a full-time mission that I didn't see my family. I called home on Christmas and Mother's Day. We had the white handbook, the missionary handbook. So definitely as far as like full-time away from home, it was absolutely that experience too. But again, just the service we're doing different things. We weren't preaching. We were doing family and church history.
Did you have a companion?
Yes. And I guess I'll give you a little bit of the history of the mission. So it was about 6 months, roughly 6 months before I got there, that it became a full-time option for the young missionaries. And there were only males, no sisters in the mission. Our geographical boundaries were like a block north to a couple blocks south of the temple, and about the same east and west as well.
And you live downtown?
We lived downtown, the Garden Apartments were kitty corner, just across the street from the conference center to the west. And we had about 90 of us on average, 90 of us young missionaries in that area. So we all lived in the same location our entire mission. So when transfers happened, we transfer apartments, but we'd still see each other for our entire missions.
All these 90 missionaries were doing the same thing?
Different assignments, but the same mission. Some of us in the Family History Library. The majority of us probably maybe about 40 to 50% in the Family History Library, about 5% in the Church History Library, 5 to 10, and then 40 to 50% in the Joseph Smith Building doing more of the background type things, like customer support with FamilySearch.org. So kind of a variety of things that we did, but all of us, all within that small location.
Yeah, I've never heard about this mission before.
Yeah,
I know.
Until today.
Yeah, it's really special.
Are you making it up?
I'm not. I'd never heard of it before being called there.
Can you talk about the calling a little bit?
Sure.
Did anything happen? Was it just a normal mission call? Like, were you expecting to go?
So there were some factors that changed that. Maybe others can relate to this. I know, Mitch, you and we've talked a little bit about that, but as far as sexual shame and worthiness, that was definitely a factor. I was just talking with my mom about this just a few weeks ago, that vaccinations were a requirement for the full availability of missions and whatnot, and that was a big factor for me individually and our family at the time.
In that you didn't get all the vaccines.
That I yeah
you were like
that I
refusing
didn't
vaccines.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That I opted out. So yeah, I got a call in the mail though, that said that I'd be serving there. A funny story leading up to my mission is, I can't even remember if it was my mom or me that had a dream that I was called to like Billings, Montana or Boise, Idaho, like a really close to Utah mission call. And I don't know if I'm conflating our experiences because we talked about it so much, but that was kind of like I felt like it was a tender mercy that my brain could prep for being so close to home. Come to find out it was within a 35 minute drive versus a state away.
Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to mention, I was 21 when I left, and I got the questions every week from some of my neighbors, when are you going? When are you going? And obviously with the sexual shame things, it's like, I'm not going to tell them that.
Yeah.
Even though they know and assume in their
Even though
own
they would
heads.
assume it, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, you wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say that to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's any other
I think
holes to fill in
no,
before
the,
like
the
getting
logistics
down there?
with it all like makes sense. So yeah, take us like where you want to, like in the mission
Yeah.
experience, like what happened, what was meaningful to you then, now, both.
Yeah. So the mission experience definitely evolved over the 2 years that I was there because Jules, you had asked in earlier if I had a companion. So early on, we had apartment companions that might be assigned to different locations on Temple Square. So we did not have to be with our companion at all times, and we'd wear our tags on our left shoulder to distinguish us from the proselytizing elders that need to be with their companions at all times. We had a modified white handbook, like an addendum that said, these sections don't apply because of the assignments that you have, and this is what would amend the white handbook, the rule book. By the end of my mission, we, I guess, correlated that those who did serve in the same assignment zone would also be companions in the apartments, and that was an expectation that we did away with the amendments and the addendum completely, and like that was our handbook was the same as the general church missions handbook. So
Okay.
As far as experiences, like as we were just talking about the possibility of talking about this, I realized I haven't talked a whole lot about my mission, and I think a lot of that is because I can't relate to proselytizing missions. But as I was thinking about memories and things, I am really excited about talking about it. It was a really positive experience. I think there were, and I want to touch on maybe a couple of things that maybe caused a few doubts that I still struggle with now. But overall, very positive experience. I learned a lot. I loved the people that I worked with. Like I said, there were like between 90 and 100 of us that were in the same place as long as our mission beginning and end dates overlapped, right? And so we'd get together on the preparation days, and we'd play sports together, and we could have big group things instead of just me and my companion. And there are pros and cons that come with that, because if conflicts come up, you have to deal with each other for the rest of that shared time together. There isn't that natural space that can happen through transferring zones. But yeah, so anyway, pros and cons with that. The overall, I grew a lot through it in terms of having to resolve things. Otherwise, it would be miserable, you know? So yeah,
No, that makes sense. So
Tell us about the general authorities.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd mentioned this beforehand that I wanted to
Tell us how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I don't know how the sausage is made. I wasn't in the temple on Thursdays with the Quorum of the 12. But yeah, I have a couple of fun stories that I wanted to share. One was with Gary Stevenson. So this is at the time that we didn't have to have our companions with us. And there's an elevator in the Joseph Smith Building that's kind of tucked behind the Family Search Center, for anyone that's familiar with that, that goes from like the main floor to the second floor, like down to the bottom 2 basement floors where you can take the tunnels and underground to get to the church office building and whatnot. So I was going from, I think, an assignment in the Family Search Center and going to the church office building maybe for a print job that I was either picking up or taking there, just one of my assignments. And one thing I didn't mention just generally about the mission. So we share boundaries with the Temple Square mission, which is only young women missionaries. So our mission only had the young elders and theirs only had the young sisters, but our missions completely overlapped, right? So anyway, we'd see a lot of them, and we were told not to have conversations beyond, hello, how's it going? And that was it. And there are a lot of funny stories about that as well, where that direction was not followed.
Sure.
But that was kind of the expectation for us. So I'm coming down the elevator or vice versa, and it ends up that it's by myself as a young elder and 2 sister missionaries with each other. And the Temple Square mission, there's a lot of international missionaries. So their English was a second language, but like they could speak English really well. But anyway, it was just an awkward elevator ride.
Sure.
Just inherently, as far as
Where the
missionaries
rules go and everything.
Yeah, and expectations. But then to add more embarrassment and awkwardness, Gary Stevenson coming through the tunnels into the Joseph Smith Building and getting on the elevator as I'm coming off, and it looks like a single solo missionary with 2 sister missionaries in an elevator that none of us 3 had planned that we'd all be there together. But as I'm getting off and he's getting on with a couple other men that he was with, and he's like, hello, elder. And I'm like, hi. And I didn't have time to explain, and I didn't know how to explain, especially at that time in my life. I was just like mortified and embarrassed. And so I got away as quick as I could.
That you had been in an elevator with
2 sisters, yeah.
Yeah.
And that Gary Stevenson, Elder Stevenson, discovered us. And I didn't know how to explain. I couldn't explain, and I had to get to my next assignment, whatever. So
caught you in the barn, so to speak.
Very much.
Where nothing
yeah.
actually happened.
Yeah.
You couldn't even talk to them, I'm sure. That's funny.
In that case. So that's a funny one. Another one was with Stephen Snow. He was a 70. He was the church history. I think he was a church historian
yeah.
for the time that I was there. But one of my companions, he and I had a chance to meet with the church historian. And we went to his office in the church history library, and he had a baseball. From what I remember, I don't remember all the details, but he had a baseball, and my companion, just super outgoing and curious about people and great at asking questions. He's like, so where did this come from? You like baseball? And like just, so we hear this story from Stephen Snow that he threw the baseball at a special game that he got to like be part of, maybe halftime show or something, and he got to throw it to the catcher. And my companion was like, so did you make it? Like, did you make it to the catcher? And Stephen Snow he just kind of turned and looked at him, and he's like, elder. Like, come on. Of course I made it, you know. And so that was kind of fun just seeing that. A couple others as far as with general authorities. At the time, I absolutely deified the general authorities, and they were the demigods, right, of the church. And Elder Holland, in the Joseph Smith Building, we were maybe coming out of a missionary meeting for the young missionaries, and he just kind of is walking past me, and I'm kind of blocking the hallway, and he like grabs my arm and my shoulder, like, "Excuse me, Elder," and walks past me, and I just remember like just fanboy type, like, whoa, that just happened. He just touched my back, like as if it was like a supernatural experience, right? Sure. And so I did actually, even still, I appreciate that interaction a lot. And I wanted to contrast that with another one. So I was in the tunnels again, going to the church office building, getting something from there, like a document or whatever. And the whole quorum of the 12 walked right past me. And we were told, don't engage. They're super busy. Don't engage. If they want to engage with you, like, you're welcome to chat with the general authorities. But on their terms, because they're busy and they're celebrities to you. So, you know, rein it in and just be respectful, which I am totally understandable. That's totally understandable. So all of the 12 walked past me, and I'm just kind of like waiting at the crosswalk, waiting for them to pass so that like they've got places to go. And I'm just hoping that one of them will like acknowledge me and address me. And they're talking with each other, chatting, and some of them are laughing and just normal human things, right? And not a single one of them even looked at me. And I was really sad, like, and like kind of took it personally, but had to talk myself through it. Like, they're busy, I got it, you know. And so contrasting that with Elder Holland, kind of, "Hey, Elder, excuse me," you know, as he was passing by and just acknowledged me there, that meant a lot in contrast with this thing that was like really disappointing. So, anyway, one thing that I just wanted to share, I know we were talking about it a little bit beforehand, but just that general authorities are humans, even though I didn't believe it at the time, you know, they're humans. And being able to experience that firsthand, especially retrospectively, that, yeah, I mean, they kind of have, in some ways, a 9-to-5 type job as far as responsibilities go, and they're trying to squeeze things in and prioritize, and some things fall through the cracks, and they've got to focus on things. It's like, I can relate to that in my church service as well as just my job. It's like, yeah, they're just doing their best. I'm doing my best. And, but yeah, I had mentioned on one of our Marco Polos, I was like, it's funny how we often can dehumanize people by demonizing them, like assigning motives that are inhumane and just not human. But on the flip side, I feel like as humans, we can deify people, making them almost superhuman, supernatural, and that's also a form of dehumanizing somebody. And when that happens, that's like, I don't know, that can be just as problematic. Dehumanizing the positive direction versus dehumanizing in the negative direction, that we treat each other with different expectations. Like that maybe general authorities should be flawless. I don't think general authorities are flawless, and I don't think they should be flawless. But like normal humans, I think we all need to like acknowledge our shortcomings and continue trying to work through them like everyone can, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, cool. Kind of coming up on time,
Yeah.
but what I'm interested with this, like, was my mission a real mission? Is that
yes,
big doubts? That
yeah,
you
that
had,
was
like
that was
retrospectively?
absolutely a major thing, not just for me, but for the whole mission. Because, I mean, you had even asked, well, was it a service mission? I mean, we were doing the same things as what service missionaries are doing today in the same mission, because they discontinued the full-time elders there. So, because for a time I didn't feel like it was. I'm not. I'd had in my mind that this was the way a mission is. I'd be preaching. I'd be baptizing people, and so with that, for example, we would always say amongst each other, we are the highest baptizing mission in the entire world, because of all of the baptisms for the dead, you know.
Sure.
So they didn't give their explicit consent, but they can do that later, right?
Or any kind of consent.
Or any kind of consent. They can do that in the spirit world. But that was one thing for us that was just like, well, of course it's a real mission. It's just different, you know. And I do believe that very strongly. Our mission president, my second mission president, made it a very significant thing for him, for us to know that it was a real mission. Because like in the gospel tools, if you served a mission, it shows on your record where you served and what language you spoke. And he's like, it is very important. Like, I really appreciate this a lot, looking back to myself at the time, who was very sensitive to, is this a real mission? That he made it a very significant point to, I guess, go to bat for all of us young missionaries in this mission, that our missions are listed on LDS tools in serving in the United States, speaking English. Like, that's the format for any mission. It's the country you served, the language you spoke. And so, like, my record shows I served a mission in the United States and I spoke English. So yeah, I just really appreciated that from the mission president, because I wondered, like, a lot, and living 35 minutes from home, I guess,
Yeah.
feeling like I could be home. I could call my dad and be home in like an hour and a half, you know. That was very meaningful to me to know that. And I mean, ultimately, it's just one thing that really stuck in my head as far as a quote goes is, it doesn't matter where you serve, it's how you serve. And that really meant a lot to me at the time. And in a lot of ways, it still means a lot, but it's changed as far as the significance. I guess I've expanded the meaning of that to be like, I mean, as far as bridge building, to me, it really doesn't matter where we're all at as far as beliefs go, but how we interact with each other and how we show up in our lives. It's less about where we are in terms of affiliation and how we treat each other wherever we affiliate.
Amen. No,
Thank you.
Clip that. that was great.
We can keep that in.
Yeah.
Not the worst thing we say.
No, not clip it out. Clip it like as like a social media.
Oh. Got it. Got it. Okay.
That was a great little monologue there. So, well, thank you, Ashton, for sharing
Absolutely.
your mission. I wish we had more time to kind of dig into this more. So if the listeners want to listen more about our mission experiences, we're happy to share it.
Mm-hmm.
We can do some more stuff. If you have other ideas for the episodes, send us an email, leave a comment. We're always looking for new ideas for content, but we're still going at it. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing, Ashton. Thank you for sharing last week, Juliet, which was 20 minutes ago for us. And we'll see you next week on Latter-day Bridge Builders. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.